Excuse me. Welcome to the Infrastructure and Planning Committee meeting of the 25th of July 2024. I'm going to ask Councillor Rangiaho if you'd offer up a karakia for us, please, Councillor.
Whakataka te hau ki te uri, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te a tākura, he tio he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mai reora. Kia rano tātou.
Item 2, meeting notices. 1, live streaming. Whakatane District Council are now live streaming our council and standing committee meetings held in our total room within the council building. The webcast will live stream directly to council's website and YouTube channel in real time. The purpose of streaming our meetings is to provide greater access to council debate, decision making, and to encourage transparency. To those members of the public here today, all care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, by remaining in the public gallery, it is understood your consent has been given if your presence is inadvertently broadcast. Please be aware the microphones in our room are sensitive to noise, so please remain quiet throughout the meeting unless asked to speak. Item 2, health and safety. In case of an emergency, please follow the building wardens or make your way to the nearest exit. The meeting point is located across the road at Police Park. Bathroom facilities are located opposite the council chamber foyer entrance. Entrances off Margaret Mahi. Item 3, apologies. Don't appear to have any apologies. Okay, moving on to item 4, acknowledgements. Councillor Pola, who is attending via Zoom. Councillor, you have some announcements?
Some acknowledgements really, Mr Chair, and firstly, regards to the hospital and the staff, I'd have to say I had some excellent care while there, and I can't praise them enough, so they need our support as well. Secondly is thank you to Kay for the flowers and the gift basket, which was on your behalf. I really appreciated that. And thirdly, on behalf of the Kiwi Trust, thanks to Councillor Dennis for transporting the returned bronze kiwi down to Palmerston North to be repaired by the sculptor, and understand he's going to pick it up again at some stage. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. Okay.
Mr Chairman, can I just, in regard to that, I had a text the other day, Councillor Pollard, that kiwi will be finished this week. So they are now contacting the Kiwi Trust to organise whether they want to wait till I go down there next time or whether someone else wants to bring it up. So it has been fixed, or it'll be finally fixed this week sometime. Thank you.
Okay. Public forum, item 6.1, no public forum. Conflicts of interest, sorry. Any conflicts of interest to be declared? No? Okay, item 6.1, as I said, nothing. 6.2, deputations, nothing today. Moving on to item 7, the confirmation of minutes of the Infrastructure and Planning Committee meeting held on Thursday, the 30th of May 2024. Somebody like to move that those, or firstly, is there anything to be made in those minutes? You're moving, Councillor James?
Yep.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Rangiaho. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, the reports. Item 8.1, the council submission on the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Bill. Glenn is going to speak to this, correct? Glenn, welcome to the benches, and again, acknowledging that it is your last week with us here, that we would, as a council, like to invite you to morning tea at the conclusion of this meeting in the retiring room. Okay, Glenn, the floor is yours if you would like to elaborate or have got anything to add to it.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor and Councillors. Not a whole lot to add. The submission has been lodged and the key points summarised in the report. I guess just to update in terms of the select committee report, so the timeline presented there showed that it was due back on the 18th and was received back on the 18th. And I guess highlights from that as it applies to our submission would be, I guess the key point there is that we submitted on a desire to have a 30-year window. It's a 10-year window that has been passed, so that's likely to be a change that they make to the bill when it's passed in August. They have not made any changes to the 12-month period to produce these water service delivery plans. There is a provision if there's exceptional circumstances you can get an extension, but they are exceptional. So really from this point, the pathway is set for councils to continue planning on the water service delivery plans on the basis that the Act will be passed in August, and there'll be guidance from Internal Affairs around some of the specifics, right? Actually the meat of what they expect you to produce. There'll be quite a bit of guidance documentation that will go along at that time as well. And then after that year, they will be received, and then by August 2028, that's sort of the time that magically it's all going to be delivered financially sustainable. So it's not really clear still at this point what time or what date they expect these new arrangements to be put in place. But that August 2028 gives a bit of a clue for an expectation of when they expect things to be different to they are now. And I guess the other point I want to make is that there's a lot of discussion around financially sustainable entities, but I sort of want to stress the point that, at least in my opinion, being in the industry, that's really only one part of what the reform is to do. Take for instance when the Parliament was setting up the previous reform, they had 10 work streams, right? Commercial finance was only one of them, data digital, people capability, asset management, a whole suite of things that this reform needs to deliver to make things better. And the analogy that I was thinking of this morning is a bit like saying, we've been driving Holden Commodore for many years, that's been fine, it's been fit for purpose, it's got us along the way. If it was just a funding issue, we would just simply get a bigger fuel tank and pump more fuel into it, right? So what we need to do is say that Holden Commodore is no longer an efficient vehicle to deliver water services well. Maybe we need to look at a sort of Toyota, like a Prius model or something more efficient, right? We're still going to get the same destination, but we actually need to change the way that we do it. It needs to be a vehicle that we want to hop in and be proud to hop in, and it needs to be something that our customers actually are proud of, that it's working in their best interest. So I just really want to take this point that as much as the rhetoric of 185 billion of investment is the motivating factor, I'd just like to say from an industry perspective that is certainly part of it, but I'd hope that these delivery plans take this all-encompassing approach of saying efficiency gains are really what's going to set us up for success as well. Yes, there's a big investment to make, but rather than investing more fuel, let's actually get the vehicle efficiently set up and then put the appropriate amount of fuel in it. So I guess that's a bit of a leaving comment in terms of the second round of reform. So yeah, welcome any questions.
Thanks, Glenn. It's pleasing to see too on page 15, item 4, in the comment there with regards the The bill, as it stands, demonstrated a clear lack of understanding and provision for adequate time and process to ensure sound engagement with iwi. And I'm glad it's been noted because that's been a concern right from the onset of the previous water bill, that was before central government. So thank you for that. Okay, councillors, is there any comments or questions or clarifications needed? Your worship.
I'm wondering if around the traps and in the context of preparing this, whether you've had any indications from government circles about regulatory standards changes in, because the message that I got from the Minister at the Mayoral Forum was that they were very cognizant of the fact that if standards go up, costs will escalate, and that they were keeping an eye on that. But has there been any more about that sort of issue?
I guess there's two parts to the regulatory standards. One is going to be the economic regulation, but I think you're referring to
Forensic, yeah.
regulation. So I think a specific issue at the moment is that there aren't national wastewater standards. So they are being developed at the moment. So what that will do will set a more nationally consistent environmental benchmark for wastewater discharge, so that councils and water service providers aren't having to guess where that standard is, and therefore aren't having to guess the amount of investment that they need in their situation to meet a certain environmental target. So I think that would go quite a way to provide clarity around an environmental standard. To add though to that point is, and this is a backward step in my mind, is that Mana Otawai has been repealed as part of a consideration for those wastewater environmental standards. So you don't have to create a standard for the cities at Mana Otawai. And that was specifically repealed as part of this bill.
Can I just have a supplementary, please?
Go for it.
So if we don't have the standards yet, if they're still being developed, at least for wastewater, then how can we develop water delivery plans? It doesn't make sense to me. We haven't, and they haven't given us much time. So what, these standards are going to drop a week before the water delivery plans have to be written or something like that?
Through the chair, so the water service delivery plans is a service delivery model. It's not the environmental regulatory target that currently sits and will still sit with the regional council for the foreseeable future. So that will influence how we go through our wastewater consenting projects, because it will provide a clearer target and a more nationally consistent target of where the government would like to benchmark a discharge limit. At the moment it's very much catchment by catchment, unit by unit, very situational, right? You may have a huge target here quite different to one over here. And that's driven largely by, I guess, projects and regional council and aspirations of community influence, which of course can create massive disparities of cost as well.
Thank you.
Miriam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everybody, and Glenn. I'm on page 19 of the report, and I just want a little bit of clarity around this timing issue. And I absolutely appreciate that the way this has been submitted is that because of the timing, the purpose of the plan is driving the timing, not the other way around. And when you go down to 5.4, and you said it's been acknowledged that others submitting that the time frame for the plan be extended for 2 years. However, an extension of time does not address the fundamental flaw in the content being requested. So I was just wondering, what does that actually mean?
I guess the first point to make is that the sort of content of what these plans look like looks a bit like a long-term plan in terms of submitting quality of assets, submitting ways of working, and the level of detail that they are assuming can fulfil what a new entity would be, and considering there's a number of different ways that it could be done, is flawed in that it's, in our view, it underestimates how complex this is to get right. If you went into the regulatory impact statement, it's actually clear of how much hours they think it's going to take to produce these plans, and it's in the order of 80 odd, 100 odd hours, because they expect that a lot of the information already exists. It's repackaging it up. They don't understand that this is a large community sensitive project, huge iwi, huge community aspirations, and that's locally, let alone looking cross boundary and then trying to come up with a model that is financially sustainable, is politically suitable, meets the community's needs, has iwi community buy-in, and we think it's far too light on that. It's very much just a information piece that sort of flaws or understates what we are trying to achieve here.
Thank you for that explanation.
Okay, Councillor Puller.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Morning, Glenn. I did hold my breath when you were talking about Holden, but anyway, I've moved on. The idea about efficiencies is the right way to go, because you just don't want to keep pouring cash at it and going nowhere. But so do you have any ideas about what efficiencies and how they could be achieved?
I do, and it's clear that efficiencies isn't a short-term thing. Efficiencies have been demonstrated overseas in Australia and the UK, where they have a fully privatised model. At the very core, you would start at your systems and processes, because that's what those are the tools that people use to do their jobs, and you want to get that fundamental efficiency right. And then it's efficiencies through having the right people within the team, not needing external consultancies to support core services. It's efficiencies through procurement, not needing to replicate things 3 or 4 times over. And ultimately, it's efficiencies through having an organisation that has a dedicated focus of revenue and income and performance measures and environmental and economic imperatives to do the job well. And I'll take an example. So I've worked in the fully privatised water industry before, and I can say that performance is top based on what the customer needs, and performance targets are supported by the adequate investment. It's similar to how our electricity sector is regulated, and price becomes important, because price dictates how much they can afford. It sets a expectation on the service that you get, but also it enables you to be a bit smarter in your investments. So if you can manage demand well by using price as a good lever, you're not having to over-invest in large assets. Exactly what the power sector did, right? So that's not a 5 or even 10-year transformational project, but it certainly is the efficiencies that I think the sector will need, and it's been done well overseas.
Your Worship.
Glenn, how well positioned are we to deliver on prepare these plans, 1 year after the bill is enacted, in your opinion?
In my opinion, and Labour have made it clear in their observations and the select committee report is that there's no resource available, no funding specifically to councils to do this. And I guess the reason for that is what I mentioned before, understated in terms of how complex they are to get right, to do well. So unlike before, we don't have 400 staff sitting in a government department to support us. We've got some information that, of course, we have recovered from that. So I'm not saying there's been no gain there, but I'm saying we now need to repackage it ourselves. We don't have a resource available that we can go to centrally to try to coordinate that now sitting with us. My feeling at this point in time is we're not well set up, and I don't think many councils will be well set up. And until we get that really good guidance in August, probably can't even predict. It's not a case of not being ready, it's actually we just don't have that clarity to know how best are we going to pull these things together.
What would be the consequences of not being able to deliver in time?
Well, the biggest consequence is you get a Crown facilitator in who will guide you to the water service delivery plan on time, and they will charge you for that service. That is the ultimate backstop that has been built into the bill.
Councillor Tantros.
Thank you. The Mayor kind of covered some of what I wanted to ask about. But, so in relation to this, we've been exploring conversations around how we might partner up with other councils. Where does that leave us in terms of that? What's been going on that?
That is all good for exactly what we're needing to do now. So the work and partnering and working with the Bay of Bendigo Forum is, of course, preempting what local water Dunwell is looking like. So that's a head start. Certainly, that's what we need as the basis for starting to build relationships and starting to get the evidence base and financial models to support efficiencies through that way. So this will be an extension of that. We will keep doing that work, but it will be now specifically to meet a act of Parliament and passed.
Time frames don't threaten that in any way.
Okay, councillors, Councillor O'Brien.
Just quickly, Glenn, I want to say thank you to you guys for putting the submission letter in and voicing our concerns, because it's very apt that we need to voice our concerns, because this seems to be the norm. Short time frames, making it rather difficult for us, having no environmental guidelines to help us enact whatever we want to do. So yeah, I just want to say great work on putting the submission letter in and the submission. This is such a complex piece, and please, we're not getting any help. Well, that's what I can see from the government. So, what do you want to go? This space. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would like to just note that this, the submission was prepared largely by the Bay of Bendigo Forum, so Vaughan and Sinead both adapted it to bring our flavour in, so yeah, would like to just acknowledge the work that they are doing still for us.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, councillors, can we go back to the recommendations on page 10? Recommendation 1, that the council submission on local government water services preliminary arrangements will be received, and number 2, that the infrastructure and planning committee retrospectively approve the council submission on local government water services preliminary arrangements bill. Can I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Rangiahu, seconded Councillor O'Brien. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against and carried. And again, Glenn, on behalf of council, thank you so much for the work that you've given to us. And we're sorry to see you go, we certainly are. And you know, having sat around the table and been part of your knowledge that you've shared with us, especially around this water reform, whichever form it is going to finally take, we really, really do appreciate the input that you've given us. We wish you well in your future endeavours. And as I said at the onset, you're invited to morning tea with us at the conclusion of this meeting. Thank you, Glenn.
Good luck.
And I'm out of here.
Okay, now move to, let me just get my, page 25. Page 25. I must update my technology. Okay, the Infrastructure and Planning Committee's planning report for July 2024. Even you wish to speak or add to this report before we get into it?
Morena tātou, good morning everyone. So this is a unique report. It's the first one at the end of a 3-year capital works program. And so we thought it was quite timely to, as well as the normal update around projects, we provide a bit of a summary around how the last 3 years has worked and some of the lessons learned out of that process. So I'll probably call attention to those items captured in the report. On page 32. So part of the process of just continually improving and trying to get better at what we do, we undertake lessons learned conversations and meetings quite regularly. So what we found is right at the start, when we had stimulus funding as a result of COVID, we kind of removed a lot of barriers to delivery, and the Three Waters team delivered in that year 130% of the projects that were allocated to them. So that was included the carry forwards, projects in the LTP, as well as a bunch of stimulus stuff that, you know, we weren't allowed to have in an LTP or a plan. So it was just projects that we need to come up with, get into the market to support local contractors and consultants, and so that was really successful. We've noted, you know, inflation over the last 3 years has been massively high and had a significant impact on our projects and our program. A number of the budgets had to be re-reviewed and brought back across council table for approval, and in some cases when you've got working with a funding envelope, we were only able to do a certain amount less than what we had planned to do. We had some delays through the program. Waka Kotahi approval of budgets at the start of the last LTP, that didn't happen until September. It's probably going to happen again this time round. And there's a piece in the report later on around what certainty we have around Waka Kotahi budget. So those caused delays as well. Weather events have impacted not only delivery of existing projects, but you know some of it was quite complex, and it took up funding resources as well. And so some of our consideration into our programs that works through this LTP and our asset management planning processes is around building more resilience into the infrastructure, and actually focusing on some resilience-focused projects. The great thing out of undertaking the lessons learned process is that, you know, we can identify some of the challenges that we've had, and make sure that in the future, when we're developing our programs and our work breakdown structures for delivering projects, that we're making sure that we capture enough time and scope in those projects to deliver those. I've got a brief presentation here around a high-level overview.
Councillors, that was added to Stella yesterday afternoon.
So, why did we want to put in place a 3-year capital works program? Projects, especially big projects, don't necessarily align with a balance date. They don't really care what your last day of financial year is or your first day. They'll go as long as they need to until they're finished. The other really important one was provide flexibility to project managers around project delivery and timeframes. This has been really awesome for the team. Just understanding that if you've hit a roadblock, you can pick something else up and start delivering or planning or scoping that while you work through a consenting issue or an archaeological authority or something like that, or an engagement process. We can still do better, and I think making sure some of the finance funding stuff behind it helps to enable that. It's also been really good to provide certainty and forward-looking roadmaps for contractors and the sector. So we present quarterly to the civil construction sector around our 3-year capital works program. It's focused quite closely on what we're designing, what's going out to tender over the next 3 to 6 months. But the intention is to actually try and make a 3-year program visible, transparent, and ultimately we need our local contractors and contractors in general across the country to have some certainty to invest in their businesses and invest in their people, because as a country we need to be doing more than we've ever done before. Ultimately we're wanting it to aid in overall delivery, better oversight and management, and then sort of reduce some of the back office stuff that was involved with having a 1-year capital works program and then moving to another one and trying to deal with all the stuff that you didn't finish in the last year. I love that picture. That's Mimiha Bridge up on the way to Ruatahuna. And that is a perfect example of a project that's experienced delays, but for the right reasons. This was a co-design project with Ngāi Tūhoe and Manawaru, and it was, I think the scope was increased to be more than just a like-for-like replacement of the bridge. It encompassed the environment, the reserve, the waterway, and I think it's going to be a fantastic showcase around how you can develop something together. So how do we do? We tracked the following project information over the last 3 years. So we had 494 infrastructure projects over the last 3 years. Some of those are multi-year projects, so there'll be 3 lines for each project because there'll be budget assigned to each of the financial years. A total LTB budget of 84 million for that, with 5 infrastructure functions: solid waste, 3 waters, transport, ports and airport. We completed 395 of those, so 80% completion. And then we've got 80 projects still in progress. Some of those are multi-year projects anyway. And then some of those are some of the ones that have suffered some of the delays that we'll talk a bit more about. We had to put on hold or defer 19 projects from 494. Some of those were funding reprioritised. Some of those were taken by decisions outside of our hands or control. So how do we track our projects? We built a dashboard that sat over the top of a big database of all of those 494 projects. And we used that to have conversation. So there's a lot of information in there. You know, we've got 40 in construction right now. This is live as of last week when I prepared this report. We've got 6 projects with some identification of risk, a couple in procurement now, a couple in design and consenting, and then 25 in planning. You can use this system to filter down on the type of project, so whether it's a complex project, significant or key project. So you would have seen in our previous infrastructure and planning reporting some quite detailed information on key projects and other significant projects where we think there's community interest and political interest. We can drill down and look at the projects at a department level as well. And then know what type of project it is. And then we can also have it shown by location. This is really useful for communicating projects to community boards or areas of interest. So the 19 projects that put on hold or deferred, so some of those, 5 of those related to resource consents, that we're trying to pull the team around. Just didn't have the resource. A lot of those have started, and we've got some great conversations happening. When we fully resource that consenting team, we'll be able to hit the ground running. 4 of those projects relate to change in government, legislation, or complete removal of funding. So we've got a couple of shared use Transport Choices Program projects that were lost their funding with the national government. And then 5 are connected to sort of larger projects or strategies that we need to progress before we can do these ones. And then this is just a dashboard around the projects that have an element of risk. Got some guidance around what do we classify a finance risk, what do we classify a normal risk, schedule risk or scope risk. So we're trying to get all into the system and consciousness around risks to project. And you will have seen in some of the report go to green. So where we've got projects that are have an element of risk, we've got a plan around how do we get that project back on track if we can. That's it.
Bevan, thank you so much. It's such a useful tool, not only for us as councillors, but as you all rightly said, for the community boards to be able to take this information out there without having to wade through report after report and pages of reports over time. Deputy Mayor Amick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is looking really great. Thank you. Can I just get you to go back up to the one with the maps on, or one really, which I agree for community boards will be really fantastic. Up there on the top there, you've actually got a community board menu drop.
Yes.
What does that slide look like?
I can't show you right now.
Oh, okay.
This is just a snapshot of it.
But that will be projects per community board.
Yeah, there's a filter on the side where you can filter the community board you want to look at, and you can either have high-level reports or that project details tab. You can drill down into the actual projects you want to look at specifically. So,
Is this only a staff tool, or?
at the moment, it's a staff tool, and the reason is it's like 494 projects dumped into a database, and it's only looked at and updated for the purposes of preparing these reports. I think the real benefit is going to be when this is connected to a project management system that people use to do their jobs better every day. Then it's always going to be live. At the moment, if I'm just updating a report for infrastructure and planning every 7 weeks, then I'm getting the team to go and update it in there. And it'll be similar to with the community board reports. It's updated once in a while. I think the benefit's going to be when it's live, used, and you can actually see how things are going.
was going to be my next question, was when will we see the project management office up and running?
At the moment, we are doing a bit of baselining of our first year projects with the teams.
Right.
Today and tomorrow. We've got the project management system live as of last week, so some of that baselining will work to get into the system. And then over time we'll build what looks like the 3-year program. But at this stage it's let's get it in, let's get it used, try and get it as final as possible in terms of functionality, and then build it out.
Okay.
The real benefit's going to come at the next LTP when we can do a lot of the baselining before we adopt an LTP, because that's where you build in scope or any schedule risk and delay, and which then means you may not put the same level of funding into 1 year as next year.
Excellent. Yeah, Victor.
Are we ultimately expecting this to be publicly available?
If
not, why not?
My answer would be yes. It'll be around your comfort of what you're putting out into the public. I think it would be fantastic, and I mean that's where I think the sector needs to go if you want to give contracting sector confidence around the level of work that's coming up, so that, and what type of work it is, when it's going to go to the market, so that they can invest in their businesses and their people.
Just in regard to that page there, where you say you got 494 total projects, you completed 395 of them, 40 are in construction, say up around that 88 mark, 88%, and you've only got 25 projects in planning. Does that mean we're finally getting our head above water? Does that mean, obviously you'll have another set of projects for the next 3 years, or are we actually starting to gain momentum, starting to get our heads above water?
I like the way you're thinking. I'd like to say yes, we're getting our heads above the water, but I think the real opportunity for that is going to be through this 3 years with a project management office that can give you real clarity and confidence around delivery timeframes. As this is going to be the first iteration of the project management office, as we're working through delivery projects, we're going to be undertaking audits and lessons learned conversations around every single project, and the learnings out of each of those will then inform the template and the model. So if we're experiencing delays and we see a similar project with risk of similar delays, we'll build that into the schedule, or be more preemptive in terms of when we initiate that piece of work. So I think the idea is to get our head above the water. We may need to come back and have some real conversations around what is it that we put in our 3-year plan that is not realistically achievable once we've done all the baselining and figured out what are the delays and the impacts of those.
Okay, I concur with the Mayor there. If it could be made available to the public, I mean, gives the ratepayers an opportunity to see exactly what the infrastructure projects we have on our page.
Yeah. So one comment I would say is knowing the tool and knowing how it's used elsewhere in terms of public availability. There's some stuff that you put over top to be able to make the data visible. There are some serious risks in just exposing the back-end tool, but there are some tools that we can put over top of it that do that.
Certainly a step in the right direction. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Can I just make a comment too, which Bevan's done some great work in the infrastructure space. This is for our infrastructure projects only, so I think there's still work to be done to expand that into other projects delivered by other areas of the council. Yeah. And we have just recruited somebody who's going to pick up our EPMO, so Enterprise Project Management Office work, and hopefully, in time.
You're the pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what
Bit ahead
we're-
of the pack,
No.
And it's the biggest spend area of council as well, so it's great to see this one leading the. Okay, if there's no further discussion on the presentation, thanks again, Bevan. We'll work through the report. I was sort of suggesting we might do it on a page-by-page basis. So, councillors, any questions, Your Worship?
Bevan, could you give us a bit of clarity over Table 1 and the Kepler Road improvements? Well, it's the page
26.
26.
Yeah, 26. I see there's a $4 million budget for the 23-24 period, which is up. And it's been spent on planning.
No, we haven't spent that. That's just all the budget. We're in the planning
That-
process,
yeah.
in the phase at the moment. It's
So that $4 million is supposed to cover everything.
it's split across 2 financial years, I think, the budget. So that'll be the budget that's just in 1 year.
Okay.
That's one of the ones that's experienced delays because of the complexity of it and also the connectivity to other developments and other projects.
Okay.
Okay, anything further, councillors? Page 27. 8.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, just in terms of the Apanui Linear Park and the Peace Street developments, I've had a few people comment to me that it is looking really great and that it looks like it's going to be effective. Some anecdotal feedback from someone from the engineering industry.
Okay, page 30. Bevan, the Ruatoki new water source, is that progressing or is it progressed or?
That is progressing. I think the budget and time frame for that one was placed there, hoping that we were going to find a good water source reasonably quickly, and we did find good water, but it wasn't the quality that we wanted. So we've done test bores in a couple of other locations. We think we found a great location now. And we're in the process of working through engagement with Ngāi Tūhoi and trying to identify a suitable site for location of the treatment plant.
Meanwhile, the existing supply is holding up, is it? Up to
At the moment.
Okay. Councillor Driggs.
Thanks, on page 30. So the bottom 2, there's no path there to go to green, so because of the funding, they're not likely to go ahead, is that correct?
No. And that's why we've captured there that actually there's no green path for that.
I was just checking I was interpreting it correctly. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Tanchos.
Just on the Awatapu Cutler Cres piece of work, which is on hold, I'm just trying to recall, we had a conversation around moving the money from the the other projects. Sorry, I'm just trying to. How did that pan out? Is that same piece of work?
It's the same piece of work, yeah. We had a real good crack at trying to see whether that was going to work, but that also had some complexities around it. We needed to spend it within a very short time frame. So what we did was just assess whether we could do it, but unfortunately it's one of those, it's also in an environment where we would have needed to undertake a number of comms, and probably, I don't know if the budget would have been sufficient to do everything anyway. But I think it was great to have that opportunity. If there was big pushback against something, let's look to see whether we can redeploy that funding elsewhere.
Yeah, let's try it.
Page 32. The Edgecombe to Thornton's cycle trail. Where did that land? Is it still a work in progress? It is?
Still working through this.
Anything Looking further, page 32, 33, 34. Waka Kotahi budget approvals. No concerns there, Bevan?
No concerns. We've got some elements of our budgets approved, so we've got a bit of certainty there, but we're still waiting on confirmation of some of the remaining budgets.
Okay. Councillor
Sorry,
Rowan.
on page 32, the Mirupara wastewater discharge resource consent, it's all grey. Grey area?
Yeah, I think that's,
What's happened?
so that one's in the, I guess, in the planning stages yet, and so we haven't got into the scope, schedule, finance, risk stuff. With the consenting team that gets put in place, they'll be managing the whole lot, and so you'll see a lot more clarity around the whole program of consent renewals through this financial year and the next couple.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Tangos.
And also just on the Mirupara treatment upgrades, could you just give us an update on where this is?
We've set up a stakeholder group, which will be leaders and representatives of the community. The intention is to work through that stakeholder group for the wider community engagement. So bring them alongside us, make sure they've got all the information so that we're standing alongside those community stakeholders when we have that conversation. We acknowledge the concerns and I guess the pushback around treatment, and we just want to try and do it in the most collaborative way. We're in a situation where it's not a why, it's a how, and so we think the best way to do that is with key leaders within the community.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, page 35, the special purpose roads funding rate, 100% reduced now to budget reduced by 30%. Is that going to impact us on your work program, or more importantly, those communities?
We don't think it's going to impact the program around what we've got budgeted and what we've got planned. There is opportunity to have further engagement and conversations with Waka Kotahi if we do have shortages in some of those programs. We are working with Waka Kotahi and Ngāi Tūhoe specifically around Nature's Road, and we want to make sure that there's appropriate budget for that project and for ultimately the continuation of the Nature's Road trial over the next 3 years.
Okay. All right, we move on to item 6, the Airport Master Plan. I'm going to just ask, how are we going with the hub of engagement? Is that all still on track?
We were supposed to have a catch-up this week with Tai Whakaia, just to present the plan and get more input. We've had a very important tangihana this week, so we've had to defer that catch-up, but that will definitely happen over the next week.
Okay, so hopefully we're still on track for the adoption of that master plan on the 26th of September.
Yep, we are hoping so, but more of approval for consultation, so won't be adoption, it'll be approval, sorry.
Approval
Yep.
for adoption.
We will consult.
Okay. Anything there, councillors? Item 7, airport fees and charges. Item 8, seal extensions. Any questions? No? Councillor Tatchell.
Question on eight, well, it's not really about it, but the point made in 8.1 talking about the increase in costs for the steel extension. It talks about underestimated project costs, underestimated project setup costs such as traffic management. And I was just thinking about the reforms that the government is proposing and wondering, is that likely to have any, well, I guess it will have impact for us, but what's your thinking around that? And in particular, some of the things they've talked about is reducing costs on traffic management. Those were put in, I guess, for health and safety reasons. Does that give us any risk in terms of health and safety, do you think?
It's a very good question. I can't answer it at the moment. In fact, I think David and I are on a call with Waka Kotahi today, and one of the items that they're going to be talking about is some of that traffic management planning. I agree it is a concern if they remove too much of the safety requirements around traffic management, whether that creates more risk. So we'll be looking at it from probably both lenses, right? You know, sometimes it can be challenging and add a lot of cost.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they have, you know, reasonably good safety practices in place already. So we want to make sure that we're enabling, the rules are enabling, but also that it doesn't create undue risk.
Thank you.
Councillor, excuse me, Councillor Dennis.
Thank you. Just in regard to the same point of traffic management and reduced costs, I know when I was visiting the council down at Wellington at those road worker safety forums, that there was a lot of talk about shutting the road down completely where possible. And in respect to, say, the Smith Road, Walkers Access Road work that we did, you could go down Greggs Road and then come back out, and that meant that you had no traffic management at all because you shut the road, and that there was a increased volume of work being done over a shorter period. Have we looked at that?
We have, and there's a number of times that we've undertaken it.
Yeah.
We've closed Wainui Road a couple of times, and the amount of work you could do in a day, just one day's closure was amazing. And if you can coordinate that with your neighbouring council, so we share Wainui Road with the Portuguese district, we were both in there doing work. So we
I
do look
appreciate
at
with the one I named, Greggs Road's a very narrow road, one lane bridge, and you'd struggle to get big trucks, etc., as well as cars going the opposite way. But yeah, obviously it's good to know that, because my understanding is there's huge savings to be made and almost no traffic management. Thank you.
I think we'd look at it more where you've got, you know, significant culvert replacements which you've got to take across both lanes. If you can work within, and I guess it depends on the length of detours as well, and how much impact that's going to have on users. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, page 37, Pokairoa Road. I see it here, and I think you're preparing a business case for Waka Kotahi. Can you elaborate on that one a bit more, Bevan? It would not be impacted, or the set extension program would not be used against that particular road, would it?
We're not planning to use the seal extension funding for that particular road at this stage, because we think the wider benefits to the Eastern Bay of Plenty and the region are greater than just council funding it from a private perspective. It's a significantly long road too, and the plan is to seal Pokairoa up to the Ngāmotu intersection, and then Ngāmotu Road through to the sealed area on the Rotorua side. So what we noticed over the last couple of years, where we had significant weather events and State Highway 2 was closed in Matatara, and then we had the one-ways working through the Rotomars, there's a lot of freight traffic coming on the private forestry road. And so we had users. Who owns it? The forestry road. Private road. Yeah, we had a representative of Cumberland's come and talk to us and voice their concerns about the level of commercial freight traffic driving on a road that's not fit for purpose and actually quite high risk. So you can't dig long stem trees along, which can be quite dangerous. So Google Maps was actually directing some traffic along that road. So we contacted Google and they took that off as a viable route, but the need still remained, right? You had resilience issues with key state highway networks to the Eastern Bay of Plenty, and so an idea of an alternative freight route through Pōkairoa and Ngāmotu made sense, and so we'll be putting some business case together for that, and we'll be looking at all sorts of opportunities around funding for it. It won't be a small project.
I mean, that might come under the heading for this new infrastructure fund from central government, possibly. Okay, anything there further on page 30? Withy Road, I'd see that's sort of a segmented seal again. And with that subdivision that's going on at the end of Withy Road, does that elevate this now, or is that going to be part of the review that we're going to undertake?
I see it. So we've got Withy Road in there.
Yes.
It's right at the bottom of the program list.
Yep.
So if the subdivision, if every 3 years we're going to review against the unsealed roads against the methodology. So if there's new sections, new houses going in, then it will elevate those sections of unsealed road.
Right. And there'd also be development contributions in the event of that residential subdivision going ahead, right?
Potentially the ability to charge a financial contribution directly towards Withy Road.
Your Worship.
Stephen, could you give me an idea of the cost difference between using tall oil pitch and standard pavement? Bitumen?
Right now, no.
Oh,
At the moment, all the IP rests with Ngāi Tūhoe and WSP. It's still in the trial phase, so it's not ready to be rolled out anywhere else.
I'm not sure what IP there is because it's already been trialled in many places, tall pitch. But anyway, just wondering the cost difference.
I think that the extension, the 20 Ks that's been put in now, there's 3 year time frame to look at all the maintenance and monitoring requirements of it. That's an uncertainty as well.
Okay. Yep.
So at the end of that 3 year period, we'll get a better idea of what the total cost of ownership, kind of
Right.
is,
Yeah.
right?
Because you don't know how long it's going to last.
No.
Seems
Or
to have been
what they're
quite
doing.
successful in Canada, but
That cost is not on council anyway, is it? We're providing the professional services basically, aren't we, on that trial?
We're a partner because we're the RCA within the Road Control Authority for Ruatānahuna Road. The Nature's Road or the extensions of the trial sites are within that road. So we need to be part of that conversation so that we're not going and grading or doing, treating that road as same as we always have. So we need to be really conscious of where those sites are and how those are treated. And then also, how do we support Ngāi Tūhoe to play more of a role in managing those sections of the road.
Okay, any further questions up to page 39? If there's not, I think we might take an adjournment for morning tea.
Can I ask one question, Mr Chair, before we
You
break?
may.
Just in regard to the dashboard, Bevan. So, did you indicate that for contracting businesses that would like to bid for future work, there'll be a future works category on the dashboard that they will be able to go and see what's coming up?
I'd see the interactions or communication with the civil construction sector or the stakeholder group in numerous forms. One will be high level, this is our program works over the next 3 years, quantum type of work and scale, right? Because you need to give certainty around investment, and investment, you can't just turn investment on. So we want lead-in, sufficient lead-in time so that they understand what the type of the work is, fit their organisations with the appropriate machinery, training and resource. The other part of it is your ongoing quarterly catch-ups with the sector, and you'll be looking at a forward window of, you know, what's going up for procurement, what's hitting the market over that time frame. And then I think there'll be it'll be useful to have some retrospective view around what have we done, how have we delivered, who delivered almost as well. So having a great project management system that captures all of that information gives you so many different ways that you can communicate it.
Just a supplementary, Mr Chair. So the Civil Construction Forum Group, is that only for currently approved people who work with council? I'm just thinking of a new operator that might want to come in. How would they know?
No, it's not just for our current contractors. We've had a few new contractors attend, see interest. Like I think it's reasonably well advertised. So Toy EDA run those,
Okay.
and it's across the Eastern Bay of Plenty. So we've got representation from Regional Council, Kawerau and Opotiki. But yeah, I think, you know, we could do better. Like if we're wanting to encourage more participation, you know, releasing information around big programs at work will help do that, and it'll also help potentially create new contractors or encourage smaller contractors that are starting to come along and figure out how do they join our panels, how do they participate.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll take a break until 10:25. Okay, item 10, Three Waters reform. Item 11, Burma Road closed landfill. Comments from you?
Can we just go back to item 9? Sorry, a bit fast for me, or I was a bit slow for you. But this thing of combining Fonterra wastewater streams, Edgecombe and Whakatane, can you explain that a bit more? Are we talking about a big new system out on the plain somewhere?
We're looking at that opportunity. Fonterra have a project to upgrade their wastewater treatment. We know that we need to upgrade our wastewater treatment, and we've got a consent renewal that we need to work through. So we're just looking at the opportunity whether there is ability to do something together.
And obviously involve co-funding, etc.
Good thought.
Okay, interesting bit of work.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, item 10, the Three Waters reform. David, Steph was part of that review. Is there any update?
Yeah. So Steph has passed her role over to the Chief Executive of Rotorua Lakes Council. So he's running the program itself. Bevan and I are both representing the Whakatane District Council in those discussions.
Okay.
I need Bevan.
I mean, I sit in on the forum, obviously, and as far as I know, actual models haven't been produced yet, but it's a question of breaking down relevant councils into groups. So Tauranga and Western Bay have already sailed, doing their thing. So it could be a model where they go together and everybody else forms another entity, or it could be Tauranga, Western Bay together, Rotorua out and Eastern Bay, plenty councils together, and those are the variants that are being looked at. So I guess that sometime soon we'll be presented with what it might look like.
Mr Mayor, would that also lead to further discussion now that Tauranga has a new mayor and councillors? Do you think that might alter the going forward of that?
It sounds from what Tauranga and Western Bay are saying that they're quite well advanced with their combined entity model. There is opportunities for us to join them if they are going well. Depends what it throws up.
Thank you.
But, yeah, we're still waiting to hear really how that all pans out.
Okay, Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, just supplementary to that. So what is your gut feel? It doesn't sound like Rotorua. It sounds like Rotorua want to go alone. Tauranga want to go alone. And they're just leaving all the lost on their own. So what's your gut feel?
My gut feel is that we better be prepared to be alone at this point, but we'll see how it shapes up. I mean, you would need to be convinced that these combined models, because, we heard all this talk about scale. So, Tauranga plus Western Bay, does that really give you the scale? And what seemed apparent at the last meeting was that because of the increased scale that Tauranga and Western Bay think they might have, I had thought that they would have got lower interest rates. But in fact, it seems the opposite. But they will be able to borrow more money. But at any rate, it's going to be borrowed money. So we'll have to see. I wait with bated breath to see how it all comes and what it looks like. But we'll share it as soon as we know.
Through you, Mr Chair, to the Mayor.
Yes, go for it.
So do you think that the Western Bay councils don't want us, or the Eastern Bay councils, to participate with them? Or they're going to go ahead and set up themselves first and then invite us in?
No, they didn't exclude us. They did say that there is an opportunity for us to join them. They made that very clear. But they had just well advanced in their planning. I guess that's what this is all about, so we'll see.
So how frequently are you having these meetings? So is it ongoing, regular, or?
Just on the regular schedule. I think there's one coming up soon. And we expect to get some information on progress on this model development.
Right. Okay. All right. Anything further? Item 10. Item 11, the Burma Road closed landfill. Any discussion there or any updates required?
Just one question for
Brian?
What's your solution?
So at the last infrastructure and planning committee meeting, we presented the proposed plans for this. We've been to the regional council with those proposals. Sorry, apologies, through the chair. We've been to the regional council with those proposals, and they've come back with a number of questions and some resource consenting requirements. So, from our perspective, the urgency is getting some of these works in as soon as possible to stop this overflows happening again. So we've actually gone back to the regional council last week, changing those plans. And they just came back yesterday with new resource consenting requirements. So we're trying to work through all those issues with the regional council at the moment. Basically with the aim of getting those new works in as soon as possible, and those new works will consist of isolating the leachate pond with some sheet piling, a complete new leachate pumping system and collection system around the ponds, as well as some upgrades to the stormwater controls within the site as well.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Morning. Hi to you, new team. Is this the cost of this all fall just on us, considering regional council are stormwater people on the land, and or with it being Aotearoa's farm? I'm just assuming that we lease that off them.
Yeah, so the council, the cost does lie with ourselves, with council. Basically, all the infrastructure is, the assets on site, they are council's, our responsibility. The land, as you say, is owned by Ngāti Aho Group Holdings Limited, and we do lease the land from them. We are also the consent holders, so we are responsible for the compliance, and these works are required to ensure that we can comply with those consent requirements. So the cost does lie to
Supplementary. Is there any possibility that Ngāti Aho Group Holdings could ask for some compensation or some additional mitigation to stop this from happening on their land in the future?
There's no indication of that at the moment. That they are very supportive of our plans. And the joint meeting we had with them and the regional council, they did say that they're really supportive of us carrying out these proposals and as soon as possible. So as soon as we've sorted out the issues with the regional council, we will then go back to Ngāti Aho Group Holdings just to get their final approval to carry out the works.
So it's not a potential risk, financial risk from either them or the onflow down the line?
It's just a good example of landfills of yesteryear that are coming back to literally haunt us. Okay, Councillor Sanchez. Go for it, people.
I was just going to say, it's also an indication of the impacts of increased weather events and rainfall intensity. The operation there functioned perfectly well in smaller rainfall events. Where you have high intensity rainfall events over a short space of time, it just inundates everything. And so we're not managing leachate anymore, we're managing stormwater and overland flow. So the change in that weather pattern has changed how we need to be dealing with our operations there. Luckily, it's probably an environment that's unique to that closed landfill.
We're adapting.
Trying to.
Councillor Tantros and then His Worship.
Thank you. It's concerning to see that ongoing overflows, and good to know that we're doing our best to get on top of that. Related to the Burma Road landfill, not about overflows though, is some time ago we had some reports of old waste being uncovered. And, wondering if where that what we addressed that.
Yeah, we've done some works over the past few years. There's basically where the leachate collection system is, there's basically, if you like, two other landfill, there is a slope there. And again, due to weather events, some erosion on that slope and some waste being exposed there. We've done quite a bit of work there, stabilising the slopes and covering them with geotextile cloth and a lot of rock holes basically, so there's been quite a lot of work on there to address that problem.
And that's solved, that's stabilised.
It solved it, but we did it that well that it actually increased the runoff into the pond because we actually reduced the infiltration into soil. So it actually contributed slightly to increase the runoff into the pond. So it served its purpose, but
Unintended consequences. Right, thank you.
Your Worship.
I'm just wondering if we've made any progress on determining the composition of the leachate, to ascertain how dangerous if it is. If it's leaching through the old landfill, then I guess it can have some heavy metals and stuff in it. Do we know, or do we intend to find out?
we can. I can provide you with a report of the sampling from that. So following the recent event and previous events, we've followed up with a sampling regime, basically from the leachate through the stream to actually measure the effect. So we have been doing some work on that, and we do plan on doing more work on that as well in the future. We do monitor the leachate itself. The contents are monitored every 6 months, so we've got data from that, and we've got data from the recent incident as well. That's part of the consent requirements, so we do know what's in there. The actual discharges have mostly come under the resource consent trigger levels, so we're all right with discharges. And most of the leachate, if not nearly all the leachate, is going through the wastewater system anyway.
Right. Okay.
So there's minimum discharge, but yeah, can certainly provide.
It's not
some information.
such bad news so far.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, moving on, item 12, Nature's Road. Councillor Jewes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great to see the alternative being used. Just my question is, what's the price difference between the top and the bitumen?
We don't know.
I just asked that.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
So
I told you don't listen
I
to me.
thought we hadn't gone to number 12.
No, it was
It was
earlier.
on the road front ceiling. Oh, so sorry. I didn't figure it out.
So the
Of course I listen to your worship.
The extension of the trial is funded by Ngāi Tūhoe and Waka Kotahi.
Yeah.
So the role that we play is having oversight and management of the whole stretch of the road, but also how can we contribute to ensure that they get the best mileage or bang for buck for that tall oil pitch. So we made sure we utilised our money to do all the safety guardrails along those tall oil pitch sites. So we don't have the information around what it costs per kilometre to install, but also to maintain. And I think over the next 3 years, that's the piece of work that's going to be ongoing.
Good. See, we got more info.
Well done, Councillor.
Thank you. And just looking at the diagram there, so the Wairoa Council is also talking with Ngāi Tūhoe about their end, are they?
Yeah.
Again, we're lucky to have Annie, who is our expert in the transportation section of our council. Annie, would you just like to give a bit of an overview as to how things have progressed with regards to this Nature's Road and the alternative to Tarseel, which is something that Ngāi Tūhoe have been very passionate about and well determined that they weren't going to have seal on what was the old state highway network.
Through the chair, thank you. I can provide a bit of oversight, but as Bevan's mentioned, we're more like the supporting partner in this process. Yes. We're not at the forefront of it. But it's certainly progressing well in terms of exploring the benefits and opportunities that Ngāi Tūhoe were wanting to achieve through this. So it's not really a case of comparing apples with apples, comparing tall oil pitch to bitumen. They both have quite different outcomes that they're trying to seek. And so in the instance of the tall oil pitch application, it's creating a lot of additional benefits that Ngāi Tūhoe are wanting in this area that can't necessarily obtain through standard bitumen sealing. And a lot of that's to do with the environmental friendliness of it, also a lot to do with the aesthetics of it. Unsealed roads are actually quite aesthetically pleasing from a natural look point of view, as opposed to a bitumen road being quite a hard infrastructure piece of asset. But a standard unsealed road breaks down quite easily and requires a lot of heavy maintenance and is affected by weather and traffic a lot more. So the tall oil pitch has some benefits around still obtaining the look and feel of a nature's road, but reducing some of those benefits that you get from overall it's really good, and it's exciting to see these types of opportunities be explored. And there's a lot of benefits around an area that we're working closely with Ngāi Tūhoe at the moment to promote is the maintenance period of it and what that looks like. So another key benefit is around local ownership and oversight of that road, and local people wanting to play a part in the upkeep of that road going forward. So it's maintained in a completely different way to a standard bitumen.
I just recall some years ago, as a council, we trialled a product on the Golf Links Extension Road under a request from the local iwi and from Golf Club. That process has been advanced, I would imagine, since those days when we trialled that, because it didn't really last the distance, did it?
Yeah, so the product that was trialled there was an EVA glue-based product, and that had some advantages. Like, it certainly had notable advantages to dust suppression, right. But for the types of outcomes we were looking for, which was mostly around dust suppression and lowest whole of life costs, the traditional bitumen sealing has the more long-wearing results for what we were trialling there. The EVA glue it certainly had a place, but it was not a long-lasting product. It's something you basically had to reapply on almost like an annual basis. And we just didn't have like the research and development support to continue those investigations, but it was a worthwhile trial at the time.
So again, it would be interesting to follow this trial to see exactly what the costs are and the longevity of the product. Okay, if there's sorry, Councillor.
Hi, just inside the report, Bevan, on page 42, because we've made te reo strategy.
Councillor, sorry.
Just on page 42, because we promote te reo rua strategy. I don't think we have main pai in the ruatahuna. That sounds kind of Asian.
Sorry, this is straight from Waka Kotahi.
Yeah, so it's probably one of those things when we do a reporting.
Yeah.
That and we can correct it ourselves, eh?
They put Tuai in the wrong place too.
I know.
The map belongs to Waka Kotahi,
yes.
But the author can also get that checked too. Thank you. I think it's manga pai.
Okay, if there's nothing further, take you back to the recommendations on page 25. Number one, that the infrastructure and planning report for July 2024 be received. And number two, that the infrastructure and planning committee endorse the progression of seal extensions on number 1 road and Thornton Hall Road as part of the seal extension program, and that the remainder of the program will be reviewed through a workshop with elected members and confirmed through council. Can I have a mover? Okay. Hands up all directions. Deputy Mayor Emmett and Councillor James. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against and carried. Okay, that brings us to the end of the open part of the projects and services. Can I have a mover to go into public excluded, please? Councillor Emmett, seconded Councillor Rangiaho. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against and carried. Okay. externals for taking the time. And again, thank you so much. All right.
So, Mr Chair, it just says that recommendation 4 was that it be reinstated in the public section of the meeting, so we just...
I think that will come through in the next extraordinary meeting. Am I right?
No, sorry, that'll be an extraordinary council meeting. We can just restate that.
That will...
Now.
Sorry. You do.
Okay. All right, the resolution be restated in the public section of the meeting.
I'm happy to move it.
Happy to move? Okay, seconded, Councillor Raniaho. All those in favour, please say aye. Against and carried. Okay. All right, that now brings the meeting to a close, and I'm going to ask Councillor Raniaho if she closes with the karakia.
Kia ora tātai, kia whakairia te tapu, kia wātea te ara, kia turuki whakataha, kia turuki whakataha. Hai mi e tai.
Kia ora. Thank you.